Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we are at Dome IQ at the Atheneum Hotel, and this is in downtown Detroit, as a matter of fact, but kind of Lansing in what it's dealing with. John Damoose, thanks so much for joining us. You are a state senator from District 37?
37, yes, up north. It's a huge district, goes all the way from Leelanau County and Northport up to Sault Ste. Marie above the bridge, so it's 4.5 hours end to end, but it's really the best part of the state. So.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of traffic goes through there. We know because we're part of it.
Yeah, that's for sure. We love you coming up there too. Don't stop.
You know, what's interesting about the UP, when we speak, like we'll introduce things like our Michigan Future Business Index in Marquette to a business community, and there are people in the room from Ironwood and the Sioux. I mean, the way that peninsula travels to work together is incredible.
It's amazing. So I was just most recently in this state house, and I represented 2 counties above the bridge and 2 below the bridge there. And all of us UP legislators all hang together because we have to. I mean, it's a unique area up there, and a lot of people don't understand sort of how we live up there. So we have to. And even if we don't love the bill, just out of respect for the UP, there's that solidarity there.
Now, let me ask you, this is almost a personal question. Do you guys house together when you're down here? Because that's not a daily commute.
No, and I live with a couple of other up north representatives. I live with Kurt, don't live with, we all rent a room in the same house right by the Capitol, Kurt Vanderwall and John Roth and Ken Borton, because it's a 3.5 hour drive for me, so that'd be 7 hours a day. So
when you guys get together for dinner at the house, is that a subject to the Open Meetings Act or anything?
No, fortunately we're not on the same committees and those things, but it's actually really good to be with sort of your brothers. You kind of keep each other accountable, and you get to talk about things and what's going on with you, and I really enjoyed that part of the. It's not really part of the job, but in a way it is, because this is a job about relationships.
Yeah, it is.
And relationships together with your own party mates, relationships across the aisle. This is all about relationships. So.
Well, and you know, that's the interesting thing. This Dome IQ was put together with that concept by Chuck Perricone, and so let me ask you. Are you able to overcome kind of that, here you're in this party, so I can't give you what you want thing?
You know what? It's something that I've been passionate about my whole life. And I've been part of this group in Washington that does the National Prayer Breakfast, and they work throughout governments around the world. And it's totally bipartisan. I mean, it's not even bipartisan. You forget about it. You build relationships with the people. So in the House, this was sort of my proudest moment. And it was interesting the other day, my wife was down and everybody for the swearing in. And she kind of looked at me, are you still a Republican? Because I was talking to all these friends who were Democrats. But that, you know, the deal is this. It doesn't mean you have to compromise on your core health principles. It means you have to treat people with respect. And even Scripture tells us that we're supposed to treat people as we would like to be treated. That's the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do. Because if I go yell at somebody, the last thing they're ever going to do is listen to me or be persuaded by a thing I have to say. And so I just treasure those relationships, and I'm looking forward to building them in the Senate, too.
Well, and you know, there are no bad ideas. There are different ideas. But if you don't hear them, you don't get the advantage of them.
No, that's for sure. And you know what? It goes back to genuinely treating people with respect. And I can tell you, I'm not tooting my own horn. People have treated me with respect. There is one person who is a very progressive Democrat in the House, and I'm a pretty conservative Republican, but we became friends and worked together on things. We didn't even have to shy away from talking about the big issues, the big ones, like abortion and things. And we're on polar opposite ends of this. But if you recognize, you don't treat them as the enemy, and recognize, okay, she came to her conclusion through a rational process. I may disagree with her conclusion, but she's not a bad person for that. And she didn't judge me as somebody who wants to strip rights away from people. You can have these conversations. And now that one, we don't need to have that one again, because I'm not going to persuade her, she's not going to persuade me. But we've now done several bills together out of this relationship and mutual respect.
And that's huge. You know, my dad always used to say to me, you know, when you're talking, you're not learning.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Listening is a big thing that we don't use enough.
For sure, absolutely.
So do you think then there's a chance that partisanship will ease a little bit and we will look at these issues?
You know, the biggest problem I've found, at least in my illustrious 2-year career so far, so I'm not an expert in this, is I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I don't see the level of partisanship in Lansing, because a lot of the issues we're dealing is just sort of good government stuff. I don't see the level here as I do back home. And so we've got to change the culture amongst the constituents and amongst the party base and those type of things. I have people who want me to be at war with people down here.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is we may have different ideas on things, but my goal is to persuade them to come to our side, again, not to be at war. And I've had people who challenge me on that. So we've got to change the whole political climate. It has just descended into something.
Well, I will tell you this as a guy who lobbies a lot also for business issues in D.C.
Sure.
It's worse there.
I'll bet it is.
Much
yeah.
worse there.
I'll bet it is.
Yeah,
but we've got, I mean, Michigan is such a great state. I just have always loved this state so much. I get a little bit sort of romantic about it, and we've got real issues. I want to rebuild this as the best state in the union. I mean, Detroit used to be the richest city in the world.
Yeah.
And that spread out through the state. I mean, our area, I live in Harbor Springs and near Petoskey and all these resort areas. We grew because of that industry. I mean, and we need to rebuild this. Michigan's a cool state, and we need to start telling people.
You're not in a bad spot. I had a place out on Pleasant View by Nubs Knob.
Well, so did I. Yeah, right at Hidden
Springs.
Hamlet there. So
yeah,
that's
absolutely. Well, John, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. John Damoose, he is a senator from the 37th district. He's got the best of both peninsulas, basically. We are at Dome IQ right now at the Atheneum Hotel in Detroit for the Dome IQ outing, and it's really a marvelous thing. So stick around, hear more about it right here on the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network.